House Democrats plan to pay for their $3.5 trillion expansion of the federal safety net violates President Biden's pledge not to raise taxes on individuals making less than $400,000 annually. An analysis by the Joint Committee on Taxation, a special congressional panel made up of 10 senior lawmakers from both chambers of Congress, found that individuals making above $200,000 would see their tax burden increase. The Joint Committee includes 3 Democrats from the House Ways and Means panel, who helped author the tax changes meant to pay for the $3.5 trillion human infrastructure spending package. According to the report, the biggest hit would be felt by taxpayers with incomes of more than $1 million annually. Those individuals would see their tax burden jump more than 10% by 2023 if the proposal from House Democrats goes into effect. Taxpayers making between $500,000 to $1 million annually would see a 1.6% hike in the amount of taxes they owed to the federal government in 2023. That same year, individuals making between $200,000 to $500,000 would also see an increase of 0.3%. According to the Joint Committee, by 2031, the tax burden on individuals making more than $1 million a year will shrink to slightly over 9%. Meanwhile, taxes will steadily climb on all income earners above $30,000. The burden on those making between $200,000 to $500,000 per year will jump to 1.1%. Texas Representative Kevin Brady, the ranking Republican on the House Ways and Means panel, said, "You'll hear that President Biden doesn't break his pledge on taxing Americans making less than $400,000. But that's false as well. The Biden tax pledge is simply broken in this bill." While campaigning for the White House last year, Joe Biden repeatedly stressed that he would not directly raise taxes on individuals making below $400,000. Instead, he claimed the tax burden would be borne entirely by those that could afford it most, the wealthy. And let's not forget about the recent increases in the gas and groceries, since Biden entered the White House, which is also a form of indirect tax increase. House Democrats have been unable to keep the pledge. In crafting the tax changes they hope will pay for their massive social spending bill, they have proposed a series of direct and indirect taxes that will affect all income levels. Senator Josh Hawley pledged on Tuesday to hold up confirmation votes for all Pentagon or State Department nominees until key members of President Biden's cabinet resign over the Afghanistan pullout. Josh Hawley, Missouri Republican, issued the threat during a speech on the Senate floor when he introduced legislation honoring the 56 Missourians who died while deployed to Afghanistan. He called for the resignations of Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He also said Mr. Biden should resign. Josh Hawley said, "Make no mistake, this president is a disgrace. His behavior is disgraceful. He has dishonored this country with his shameful leadership in this crisis, and it is time for him to resign." Or each nominee. Unanimous consent of all senators is required to open the debate in the full chamber. If even one senator does not agree, a hold is placed on the nomination. Senator Hawley said he would not consent to the nomination of any nominee for the State or Defense Departments until Blinken, Mr. Austin and Sullivan step down. He said, "Leaders take responsibility for their failures. And the failure of these individuals, the failure of this administration has cost Americans their lives." There are approximately 81 State Department and 12 Department of Defense nominees pending in the Senate. Josh Hawley's pledge comes on Blinken's second day of testimony before Congress, which underscored the bitter partisan divide over who to fault for the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Lawmakers' questions on Monday and Tuesday largely reflected party affiliations. Infuriated Republicans grilled Blinken on key decisions leading up the pullout, while Democrats often defended Joe Biden's decision to end the war, deflecting blame to President Donald Trump for the peace deal he signed with the Taliban in February 2020. Senior Pentagon leaders are slated to testify before the Senate Armed Services Committee in a series of open and closed briefings and hearings. While the Pentagon has been spared much of the vitriol from GOP lawmakers, they have not completely escaped the political fallout from Afghanistan. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee Republican, called on both Mr. Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley to resign. Senator Josh Hawley said, "There must be accountability. And then there must be a new start." California Governor Gavin Newsom became Tuesday only the second governor in United States history to beat back a recall, surviving the campaign to oust him over his novel coronavirus pandemic shutdowns and the state's myriad economic, environmental and social woes. According to projections by CNN, NBC News and the Associated Press. Early results in the special election showed that the recall question against the Democratic governor had gone down to defeat. With 58% of the vote counted, consisting of absentee and early ballots, 68% of the voters had voted no on the recall, effectively saying Gavin Newsom should stay in the governor's mansion. In brief remarks from Sacramento, Gavin Newsom said that he was humbled and grateful to the millions and millions of Californians that exercised their fundamental right to vote and expressed themselves so overwhelmingly by rejecting the division. Gavin Newsom said, "We said yes to science, we said yes to ending this pandemic, we said yes to people's right to vote without fear of fake fraud or voter suppression. We said yes to women's fundamental constitutional right to decide for herself what she does with her body. We said yes to diversity, we said yes to inclusion, we said yes to pluralism, we said yes to all those things that we hold dear as Californians." Gavin Newsom, who was elected in 2018 with 62% of the vote, outspent his competition by about 5-1, raising more than $70 million to defeat the 46 candidates who sought to supplant him if the recall question succeeded. Leading the list of challengers was Republican Larry Elder, the longtime Los Angeles radio host who led the field of candidates after jumping into the race in July. Supporters gathered more than 2 million signatures from Californians to place the recall question on the ballot, spurred by frustration over Newsom's tough pandemic restrictions and allegations of hypocrisy after the governor broke his own rules by appearing at a private party last year at the upscale French Laundry restaurant. Newsom framed the effort as a Republican recall, even though about a third of those who signed the recall petitions were not Republicans, and brought in top Democrats to support him, including Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. According to Political Data Inc.'s ballot tracker, about 44% of the 22 million mail-in ballots had been returned as of Tuesday night. Newsom avoided the fate of former California Governor Gray Davis, a Democrat, who was recalled in 2003 and replaced by Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger. The recall candidates blamed Newsom for failing to address rising crime, homelessness, wildfires and businesses fleeing the state, while Democrats framed the election as a referendum on former President Trump.